Nature can be harsh, and some animals got the worst deal in evolution. These creatures struggle every day just to survive. Whether it's parasites, predators, or their own biology working against them, life isn't easy for these unfortunate species. Here are 10 animals that have it worse than most. 10. Horseshoe crab. Horseshoe crabs have been around for over 450 million years, but their survival is constantly under threat. Their blue blood contains a rare substance used in medical research, leading to mass harvesting by pharmaceutical companies. While many crabs are returned to the ocean, a large number die from blood loss or handling stress. Additionally, their awkward body shape means they often get flipped over by waves, and if they can't turn themselves back, they die. Overharvesting and habitat destruction are pushing them closer to extinction, despite their ancient lineage. But at least horseshoe crabs don't have to worry about disease wiping them out overnight. That's a nightmare faced by our next unfortunate animal. 9. Black-footed ferret. Once nearly extinct, the black-footed ferret is one of the most endangered mammals in North America. Their survival depends entirely on prairie dogs, which make up almost their entire diet. However, prairie dog populations have been devastated by human activity, leaving the ferret struggling to find food. They are also extremely susceptible to diseases, especially the sylvatic plague, which can wipe out entire populations in a matter of weeks. Even with conservation efforts, their future remains uncertain and fragile. While the black-footed ferret fights off plagues and starvation, the next animal on our list barely has enough time to even worry about survival. 8. Mayfly. No animal has a shorter lifespan than the mayfly, which exists solely to mate and die. Some species live for only 5 minutes, while others might survive 24 hours if they're lucky. Mayflies don't even have functional mouths, meaning they can't eat and are doomed to die of starvation if something else doesn't kill them first. Their entire life revolves around emerging, reproducing, and then immediately perishing. At least mayflies get to avoid pain and exhaustion. The next animal on our list has to endure a long, agonizing journey just to die at the end of it. Number 7. Salmon. Salmon live a brutal life cycle. Born in freshwater, they swim downstream to the ocean, where they grow for several years. However, when it's time to spawn, they must swim upstream against strong currents, leaping over waterfalls and avoiding hungry predators like bears and eagles. Those that survive this exhausting journey reproduce and then immediately die. Their bodies rapidly deteriorate after spawning, turning them into rotting carcasses within days. Essentially, their entire existence leads up to one final, painful effort before death. At least salmon have a chance to swim freely before their end. The next animal's fate is far more twisted, quite literally. 6. Anglerfish male. No animal has a worse fate than the male anglerfish. Unlike the terrifying glowing females of the deep sea, the males are tiny, weak, and completely dependent on their mates. Their only purpose in life is to find a female and latch onto her, biting into her skin. Once attached, the male's body begins to fuse with hers, losing its eyes, organs, and independence. Over time, the male becomes nothing more than a pair of testicles, permanently supplying the female with sperm. He never eats again and is absorbed into her body. Imagine having one chance to find a mate, only to lose your identity and become a biological attachment. But while anglerfish males have to give up their bodies to survive, the next animal struggles just to recognize its own food. 5. Koala. Despite being one of the most iconic animals in Australia, koalas have a terrible existence. Nearly 90% of wild koalas have chlamydia, which leads to blindness, infertility, and painful bladder infections. Their diet is made up entirely of eucalyptus leaves, which are toxic and provide almost no nutrients. As a result, koalas sleep for up to 22 hours a day, leaving them vulnerable to predators and habitat destruction. To make things even worse, they are not very intelligent. If you take eucalyptus leaves off a tree and place them on a plate, a koala won't recognize them as food and might starve to death. Their inability to adapt, combined with wildfires and human encroachment, makes their survival extremely precarious. At least koalas can climb trees. The next animal struggles just to stay out of harm's way, no matter where it goes. Number 4. Hedgehog. Hedgehog life is a constant struggle. With poor eyesight, these little creatures often get stuck in pipes, fences, and even trash while foraging. Their only defense mechanism, curling into a ball, is useless against cars, which is why they are frequently found as roadkill. Many hedgehogs also suffer from wobbly hedgehog syndrome, WHS, a neurological disease that causes them to slowly lose control of their limbs before dying. Additionally, they are prone to parasites like mites and fleas, which cause severe discomfort and infections. To make matters even weirder, hedgehogs practice self-anointing, where they chew on toxic substances, including poop, and smear the saliva all over their bodies. Scientists aren't sure why, but it sure doesn't make life any easier. But if you think hedgehogs are slow, our next animal makes them look like speed demons. Number 3. Sloth. Sloths may look adorable, but their lives are anything but easy. Their extremely slow metabolism forces them to survive on a diet of toxic, low-nutrient leaves, which take an entire month to digest. They are so slow that algae and fungi grow on their fur, turning them into living plant pots. Their slowness also means they are nearly defenseless, and if they fall from a tree, which happens often, they can die from starvation if they can't climb back up. If a predator like a jaguar or an eagle spots them, they have zero chance of escape. Sloths may be slow, but at least they don't spend centuries wandering blindly through the dark like the next animal on our list. Number 2. Greenland shark. Living up to 500 years might sound amazing, but not when you spend those centuries nearly blind and barely moving. The Greenland shark is one of the slowest sharks in existence, drifting through the deep Arctic waters at a snail's pace. Unfortunately, their eyes are infested with parasitic worms, which feed on their corneas, slowly rendering them blind. Since they are such weak swimmers, they rely on scavenging carcasses that sink to the ocean floor rather than actively hunting. Essentially, they spend hundreds of years aimlessly wandering in the dark, half-blind, and feeding on leftovers. But even the Greenland shark doesn't have it as bad as the most useless and parasite-infested creature of all. 1. Sunfish. The ocean is home to some incredible creatures, but the sunfish might just be one of the most pitiful. These massive, disc-shaped fish can grow over 10 feet long, yet they are completely defenseless against predators. With a body built for inefficiency, they are among the worst swimmers in the ocean, often getting tossed around by currents like a helpless floating pancake. To make matters worse, they are plagued by over 40 different parasites, making them one of the most parasitized fish on the planet. They rely on cleaner fish and even seabirds to pick the parasites off, but there's only so much they can do. If that wasn't enough, they lay up to 300 million eggs per spawning season, but barely any survive. To top it all off, their strange shape often gets them mistaken for floating trash, causing them to be struck by boats or caught in fishing nets. Survival in the wild is never easy, but for these animals, it's an endless battle. Whether plagued by disease, bad genetics, or an unforgiving environment, they prove that nature isn't always fair. Which one do you think has it worse? Let us know.